Hello and welcome to this Dittmer Knittery video. My name is Bev and you can find my contact information in the description box below. Whether you are a new viewer or a returning viewer, welcome and thank you for being here today. Today I have put together a compilation, a variety of the things I've been working on. I have the video all ready for you and I have some sewing. Yes, sewing. And I have some things that I've knitted and crocheted that are ready for hot water, which means that they are ready to be hot water felted. That means they're ready to be agitated in hot soapy water, and then we would move on to the next step of completion from there. But that's really good progress to have gotten that many things that far, and I'll show them to you. And I bought some yarn, and I'll show you that too. I have some new, old yarn. So here we go. Let's watch the clips I have for you. This is my sewing nook. It's right outside of the knittery. It's in a little landing, a large landing at the top of the steps. It's right next to the laundry closet on the right, on the left. From this view on the left, from my view, and to my right is the knittery. And the reason I decided to show you this is I got out my machine and I used it. And I love my sewing machine. It's a 1969 cast iron Singer sewing machine. It's quite basic. It has some zigzag stitches, but it's just a basic, hard-working sewing machine, and I love it. My mother gave it to me when I left home, so it's been my sewing machine my entire adult life, and I've rarely had any need for other sewing because, like for embroidery and things like that, I do handwork. So while I appreciate the machine embroidery, it's not anything I felt like I wanted to do. So a little tangent there. Recently, I made these pillows. Now there's a little history here. The two pillows in the back, those are made from upholstery fabric scraps that I think I paid $1 a piece for them at an upholstery fabric store. And I just grabbed a pile of them, 4 or 6 of them, and intended to sew them together to make pillows. Well, I've had these pieces of fabric now for over 10 years, maybe much longer than that. If I remember correctly where I got them, perhaps even much longer than 10 years. And a friend noticed these scraps of fabric, these squares of fabric, laying somewhere and asked me what those were. And I said, well, I always intended to make pillows out of them. And so I did. I got out my sewing machine and I sewed them together. I had fiberfill. I stuffed them with fiberfill. And I ended up with these 2 pillows. I'll talk about these crocheted ones in a minute. But these are made from upholstery fabric. And they have different fabric on the back. Let me show you that. And there's the other side of the pillows, the other fabric. Because when I got them, I never intended the front and the back of the pillow to match. I love this, that you can turn them around and get a different look. I really, really am happy with the result. And I did not put a whole lot of work into it. I didn't trim the edges. I just put it on my machine. I sewed them, I stuffed them, and I closed the edge with needle and thread, so the opening where I had stuffed the stuffing in, closed that by hand, as I think is customary. So at the same time my friend mentioned those upholstery squares, I said around the same time I had made these squares of crochet that I also intended to use to make pillows, to make basic pillowcases just with neutral fabric, which is what I've done. There's a very neutral fabric inside there. I created pillowcases, again, sewed on the machine, made two little pillowcases, stuffed them with fiberfill I already had, closed them, and then I took these squares and I crocheted around the edges of the squares and joined the squares. So these pillows are crocheted on both sides. And I actually was swatching for a blanket when I made these squares and set them aside many years ago, at least 10 to 15 years ago. I made these crochet squares intending to sew them together to make pillows, and now I've done it, and I'm very happy with the result. And like I said, I was swatching for a blanket when I did this. And let me show you the blanket. I think I've shown it before, but it's quite lovely, and I think you'd enjoy seeing it. Let me get that for you. This is the pile of blankets that sits on the chest at the end of my bed. Quilts made by my mother and two of my grandmothers, and this large crochet blanket made by me. Off to the left a little bit there, you see a quilt on my bed that was made by my auntie. And the Afghan in the background, the neutral colored Afghan in the background, which I'll show a little bit more in a minute, that was made by my sister. So I said I would show you this very large Afghan that I made from the green squares, like the pillows I made. So here it is. It's very large. It more than covers my queen size bed. Made this lovely edging on it. It was a lot of fun. I remember making all these squares, and yes, I did either sew or crochet the squares together. I'm pretty sure I crocheted them together. That's my preferred method. And a border that is clearly several rounds. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. There's the underside. And the pillow. So finally, all that comes together. Oh, and I mentioned this other blanket, the cat pattern blanket here in the background. It's made by my sister, Crochet. And so this nice cushy pile of blankets at the end of my bed, of course the cats lay on it. So I cover it with that cat blanket. That's acrylic and machine washable, so that they can lay on the pile of blankets and they don't get cat hair all over my good blankets, which of course that wouldn't hurt anything either. Not on the green one, because it too is acrylic and machine washable, although it is, again, very, very large, heavy blanket. Good for winter time, but whew, that thing will keep you warm. This is a corner of my kitchen. And as you can see, the water heater closet. And this is my water heater. I'm quite fond of it. It was new in December of 2021 and it does a great job. I'm quite fond of it. The old one, however, was very old, probably close to 20 years old, was in very poor condition, had begun to leak, and apparently the house itself, the closet, was built around the old water heater, and they had to remove the frame and the door to get the old water heater out. Now, why am I telling you this? This is now the corner of my kitchen where the water heater is hidden behind this curtain I made. I sewed it. Well, and it was quite easy. I'll try not to go too quickly and let you see this pretty fabric that I had in my fabric stash. It's, one wide piece of fabric. I was able to use the selvage on both edges and just do a bottom hem and place at the top for the little curtain rod some command hooks on the wall, and there. I had a curtain over that water heater, and now it no longer is the ugly corner of my kitchen. It's the pretty corner of my kitchen. I have 3 bags and 1 hat ready for hot water that I want to show you. And I'm showing you this one first because of the yarn I used. I really enjoyed making this bag. The variegated yarn is Karen Felt It. And I'll show you more about that yarn in a minute. Now, I am not good at keeping ball bands or scraps of yarn. And I don't have the ball band for this colorway. I do have ball bands for other colorways, and I'll show you the ball band in a minute. But the yarn is discontinued. And I had this one skein of this purple, blue, lovely. And so I made the bag, and then I ran out of that, and I made the strap and the flap out of some wool purple yarn that kind of know where it came from. I know it's wool, but I can't really tell you much about the yarn. Both of these yarns are probably 5 bulky yarns. I think this is shown as a 4, the Karen Felt It. But it works up a little bulky, and yes, I will felt this bag. It is ready for hot water. It is ready for felting. It will have a crossbody strap, has a crossbody strap, and this flap for closure. There's a buttonhole there, so I probably will be putting a button on it after it's felted. You would apply the button after it's felted. So that one is knitted by hand on probably... I'm just not really good at always tracking what I do, especially when I make something like this that I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I just knit. And this, I knitted a long panel, and I seamed the sides. And then I picked up stitches around the top and made this top portion. And then I picked up stitches to make the flap, and the strap is I-cord. And I think it was a size 13 knitting needles. It may have been 15s, but I think they were size 13s. And so, I like to use large knitting needles, and this bulky yarn, this is going to felt very nicely, and it probably won't be a very big bag when it's done. Maybe about that size, and of course the little flap will shrink too. And so I think it's a nice crossbody wallet type bag. That's what I was going for, and I hope that's how it turns out. I said I would show you the yarn like this Karen Felt It yarn that I used to make this bag, and then I kind of moved past that. So let me back up for a second and show you the yarn. Now, like I said, these are not the same colorways as what I just showed you. These are different colorways. But I love this yarn. I so enjoyed making that bag that I just showed you that I went on eBay, which is where I found this, and I ordered these 6 skeins of yarn. These 3 in Wildflowers and 3 in Adobe. This is a discontinued product. I haven't been able to find it for a long time. And I've kind of searched for it before and thought about buying it. But after I made that bag, and it turned out so nicely, and it just worked up so quickly and so beautifully. And I know this yarn will felt well. I know it's dye stable. But like I said, it's discontinued. So I was able to get, I got 3 skeins from one person and 3 skeins from another, both on eBay, and I paid about $6 to $7 a skein, including shipping. So I feel really good about my purchase. Now the Adobe, I had some of. I have 2 full skeins of the Adobe already. Now I'm sure they're not the same dye lot, but that's fine. They match beautifully if I wanted to use them together. And I do have another full skein and a partial skein of the Adobe that I already had. And I wanted to show you that product because it's a product known to me, and I really, really enjoy working with it. It has a very nice feel. It's quite woolly. It is 100% wool, and it's woolly, and it will felt well. It knits or crochets up very, very nicely. I think I said I have one crocheted, and this is the crocheted one. This is crocheted. It looks to me like it's all single crochet. And this is Northland Yarn Apache Light. 2 strands held together, crocheted with a large hook. Sorry, again, I'm not going to be able to be precise about the hook size, but, you know, use a big one. And it has a pocket inside. So the pocket is sewn on to the inside of the bag. And that will felt also. And as I'm felting, I always check to make sure that the pocket is not felting, you know, to the bag itself. And after just a little bit of felting, that concern, you don't have that concern any longer. That's just at the beginning of the felting process where things might stick to themselves. The bag might stick to itself, or the pocket might stick to the bag. And that can usually be a pretty serious problem. So you don't want that to happen, but again, it can only happen at the beginning of the process. I'll talk more about felting in a few minutes. Have quite a few things for you today. Next bag is another knitted bag ready for hot water. Knitted bag, and it is also ready for hot water, ready to be hot water felted. This also has an I-cord strap. It's attached differently than the other one, but it will adjust to be either crossbody or shoulder strap. It also has the flap. And this bag, like I said, is knitted. I have no recollection of the needle size I used for the bag part. And even though I did the flap and the strap just a few days ago, I'm struggling to remember what their size was. Maybe 11. Could be needle size 11, and I'm sorry I don't have the millimeters offhand. So I just like to show you my things. I'm not always good at explaining how I got here. So this is knitted, and the special thing about this bag is that I was cleaning out the garage last week and I found this bag. It was not completed, but it was done except for the seam. The bottom seam was not sewn, and it didn't have a flap or a strap, so it was just a tube of a bag. And I had set it aside to frog it because I thought it wasn't going to felt well. The yarn has a little bit of a thick and thin, and I really thought that at the time when I made this bag out of this lovely, lovely yarn, I mean, it is just beautiful and stunning. Anyway, when I first made it out of this yarn, I thought it wasn't going to work, and I set it aside to frog it. And then when I found it the other day, it looks fine to me. I can see the thick and thin. I can understand my concerns. But I will say I have more experience now. I have more confidence now. And I'm going to go ahead and felt this bag. I've also put a pocket in this one. I've put a flap on it, and I've made a strap, and it is ready for hot water. It will get a button when it's finished for the flap, and I think it will be lovely. Now, I do have a concern that this yarn, that the dye may run. I think that's a very, very high possibility, almost a certainty. that the dye will run. So I don't have any idea of what the color will turn out in the end. I hope it looks similar to this, but my experience with these specialty yarns that are probably hand dyed, the dye doesn't hold up to the treatment of hot water felting very well, and so the dye will break down and run and create a totally different look than what I anticipate or what it looks like before felting. So we'll see what happens there. I have one more piece ready for hot water. A knitted hat. I'm pretty pleased with this little hat. It is supposed to be a fairly small hat, so it's large now, and so it will shrink in felting. But it is intentionally small for a small person, so I'm hoping that I didn't make it too small. I don't think I did. She's quite a small person. But it's from scrap yarn. And she kept admiring this scrap yarn bag, and I kept saying, but that's scrap yarn. And she would admire it again and say, I want one like this. I want a hat like this. And I said, well, what I mean by scrap yarn is that I used up the yarn making that bag. I no longer have that yarn because it was scrap yarn. Well, then it occurred to me that a hat is much smaller than a bag, and that I might have enough scrap yarn to make a hat. So I did. And this is even some of the same colors that she admired in the other bag. So I haven't shown it to her. She doesn't know I'm at this point. I'm going to felt it before I offer it to her and make sure that it turns out to be the size that I want it to be. So pretty happy with that. And I did. I knitted this hat on my knitting machine. And then I took it off the machine and finished the top, did the decreases. I did a few of the decreases on the machine, but then I took it off the machine and I finished the decreases and I seamed it. And I think it's going to turn out quite nice, and I hope that she likes it when it's done. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and please come back and watch the next video. And you can stick around and watch some more videos right now or whenever you feel like it. If you did enjoy the video, please like, subscribe if you haven't done so already, share, and comment. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.